All right, welcome to DC to Be Revolution. I'm Noah Volz. This is where I'm helping chiropractic students think big in order to live large. I'm here with Dr. Daniel Comeau. He is the COO, that's Chief Operating Officer of Town Chiropractic Sport and Spine. They've got about 6 clinics. They've got a floater clinic as well. As well as being the operating officer, he also is a practicing chiropractor, and he guides patients down the path of a pain-free and high-functioning lifestyle. So, Dr. Danny, thanks for being here.
Hey, my pleasure, Noah. My pleasure, man. Thanks for reaching out. Love to talk.
Yeah, great. So, we talked pre-roll a little bit, and you've been out of school 5 years. And so, having 6 successful practices, out of school only 5 years is pretty impressive, especially, being in school and seeing what everybody is able to accomplish. How did that happen for you? What were kind of the stepping stones towards your trajectory?
Truthfully, it was an accident, I guess. It just kind of started that way. I started one practice in the area that I moved to, and I met up with my business partner, Erik Klein. He'll be on here in a couple of minutes. And from there, when I first started, I just wanted a really busy practice. I had a lot of student debt. I had lived in Toronto for 4.5 years, and rent there is crazy expensive. So I just wanted to grind. Met up with Erik, and he was running like 3 practices, hiring chiropractor that was about 40 minutes away, which is where I'm driving now. And that worked out into a really good situation. And then as the years went on, we hired a few associates, and we ended up with 6 practices.
7
Brilliant.
practices.
7 practices. Erik, how are you, man?
So I got all bent out of shape, and to get it set up all properly, 3 or 4 different motor vehicle laws. Awesome.
Yeah, let's not talk about that right now. We get shit done.
So Erik, we're live. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Danny's in his car, and we're just hitting the ground running. So, I'm glad you're here. And I didn't mention this in the pre-roll, but you're the CEO of Town's Chiropractic Sport and Spine. You've published. You also mention in your bio that you're on the board of directors of Horizon Health Network, and you oversee $1.3 billion budget covering 13,000 public sector health workers and 100 facilities. Any chiropractic student who reads that is going to think that's really impressive. So, what was your secret towards doing that, and how can other students replicate what you've done there?
So, Noah, essentially the gist is I knew that we had to step out of our boundary. The limits of what chiropractic is and what chiropractors are viewed as is very minimal. Unfortunately, it's very tight. We live in a very tight silo. So I set out a long time ago to start expanding my own personal boundaries and also the company's boundaries to access areas that I knew would be viewed impressively by the public to improve our reputation. You must know very well that chiropractors barely rank higher than used car salesmen when it comes to trust. So being a chiropractor is not good enough. You need to provide and show a service and provide essentially a personal and corporate entity that goes far beyond that, reaches beyond what we are being taught in chiropractic school. So because of that, I sought out opportunities to provide influence and to expand my sphere of influence to be able to expand my goals. And that's what I did. So this opportunity came up. It was a vote. I ran in an election as the former health minister, which would be like the Secretary of Health and Human Services in the United States. although it was close. But people really liked what I had to offer, my vision, and so actually another minister appointed me to the board. I served for 4 years, and actually my term finished. So I should update my bio, but I did serve 4 years, and I'll tell you the greatest thing that we did was when I walked in the door the first time. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I will get this across. When I walked in the first time, it was all about we need more family doctors. We need more money. The government needs to give us more money. The government needs to take care of us. We need more doctors, doctors, doctors. And slowly, as time went on, when I left, it was people need to take responsibility for their own health. We need to focus on prevention. We actually had a strategic plan that was passed that was focused on keeping people out of the hospital, keeping people healthy, getting them access to the services that they need, fewer MRIs, fewer blood tests, fewer specialists, all those things. And so that I think was my greatest success and happiness with what I was able to achieve and influence. $1.3 billion budget, 13,000 employees, plus the sphere of influence that provided the town chiropractor.
Yeah, well done. I mean, shifting the mindset of that entire board of directors towards one of prevention, one of wellness, one of conservative care. I mean, that's remarkable. I wanted to, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the scope of practice thing, because I know that is like forefront on students' mind. I know that, politically, that's a huge issue. Are we neuromusculoskeletal specialists, or do we get to do crystal healing? Where are we in the big scheme of things? I wonder if either one of you could offer your insight into where do you feel like is our true scope of practice, and where we need to start pushing politically to ensure that that's our place in the healthcare model.
I just talked for a while. Dan, you want to take this? Yeah, pitch that one over at me. I'm not. So this might be a hair's breadth of a cultural differentiation here, Noah, because we're on East Coast Canada, you're on West Coast United States. As far as scope of practice issues here, we consider ourselves to be neuromusculoskeletal experts. We treat everything that is nerve, bone, joint. When it comes to that, we offer kind of a different outlook to some approaches. None of the doctors that work in our clinical network are the traditional style of rack 'em, stack 'em, crack 'em chiropractor. Most people are multifunctional, multi-integrational, multi-interventional. That goes with our massage therapists, our physiotherapists, our athletic therapists, all style aligned. As far as where we need to push politically, chiropractors, in my opinion, need to focus on what we're good at. So far as I can tell, there's not a whole lot of really super awesome crystal healers out there. Not saying that they don't exist. Just saying that if they did exist, they're not on my radar anyhow. But there are a lot of great chiropractors. Well, I'm sideways. There are a lot of great chiropractors who are really good at cleaning up neuromusculoskeletal dysfunctions and cleaning up pain, improving function, making people live healthier, better lives. And that, from a political standpoint, is where we need to be. Scope of practice, in my humble opinion, if you want to do something that's completely unregulated, like crystal therapy or something like that, that's on you to do. But from a political standpoint, our state bodies, our provincial bodies, our national bodies need to be pushing a prevention and pain prevention agenda. Realistically, like when you talk about integrating our profession into a standard Western medical paradigm, they're not interested in, well, like Eric was saying, they wanted doctors. They wanted a solution to a problem after the problem began. That is really how we need to approach it. What's that?
You have a booger.
Do I? Hold on.
Yeah.
Huh? Right there?
Other nostril.
Did I get it? Other one?
Other one.
Did I get it? It's gone
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I just got to blow my nose, guys. I'll be right back. No, that's where we need to meet from a political standpoint. We need to approach them and then drag them to a preventative mindset, similar to what Erik did in the Horizon Health Board. Day one when he walked in, like you said, it was doctors, doctors, doctors. We need more funding. We need more money. And by the time he left, the culture of that board was such that, hey, we have a strategic plan for preventative medicine. And as far as what we should be doing in organized political bodies, we need to meet them where they are. Chiropractors are really good at treating back pain. They're really good at treating musculoskeletal pain. We're experts in this area. And then as that is accepted and that metamorphosizes, we can start to talk about, hey, you know what? If you come in before your back pain is agonizing, you probably won't take that long to heal up. If you wait until you can hardly move and you have to come in on a door frame in the back of a pickup truck, well, you let it go too long. Right? You can shift that paradigm, but it's in my opinion, that's kind of where the scope and the political focus should be.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll jump in on that actually, and I'll say, you know what, as it's a feel good thing to try to access medical management options, but to be real, our company operates on a results driven basis, and I can tell you there are very few scenarios. We see thousands and thousands and thousands of people. There's very few scenarios where myself, and I'm sure I speak for Dan, having access to Naprox and their Celebrex or Flexerol or any of that would have made an appreciable difference. Only in the hottest of discs, really, frankly. To be honest, to be results driven, to get to the end of the matter that makes us accessing our strength, we don't need it. We are not a super subluxation based clinic. This is not a philosophical discussion. This is just a reality. It's a feel-good thing. People want to feel that. It's like chiropractors walk around with a stethoscope. You know what I mean? I use a stethoscope, but I don't use it so much that every photo I have has to have a stethoscope in it. These people are MD wannabes. Respect what you've got. You have a power. And if you use your power appropriately, like Dan was talking about, you will be successful beyond your wildest dreams. Just focus on what you're good at. We don't need prescription rights. We frankly don't to really blow the doors off what we can do. If we get it, okay, but I don't think it's not worth the energy. It's frankly not worth the energy.
No, I'd agree with that. And
Yeah,
realistically,
thank you both.
I was gonna say realistically, the evidence isn't showing that medicating, like in the case of like primary low back pain, the medication isn't the research isn't showing that medication is the primary driver anymore. That's not where we should be going. They just released a Harvard report, and they're saying use chiropractic for acute low back pain. Use movement. That type of thing. So medication's really kind of out of the question now. I think that I agree with Erik. It would be good, it would look good, but I don't think that that's the best efforts being put forward or the best use of time by any kind of national association.
Yeah, people, we every single day.
Brilliant. You guys have talked about it a lot. I'm really, really grateful for your opinion on this, in terms of where chiropractors stand on prescription rights and, our place in kind of the overarching healthcare umbrella as the neuromuscular specialist. Being in school right now, I don't feel like I'm an expert or a specialist in anything. And there, especially the school I'm at, there's so many options in terms of training in order to hone my skills. There's at least 50 clubs on campus. So somebody in my shoes who really wants to, as you're saying, wants to be part of a multi-integrational, multifunctional model that's able to that's results driven and able to get people better, besides taking every single training I can take at least, 2 to 5 a year for the next 20 years. What would you guys recommend now today that I focus on and get really good at so that I can really drive excellent outcomes for my patients?
You need to find courses, and I don't know if Dan, if we want to talk about specific courses, but sure, why not? Give a few plugs out. You need to focus on training to not just see. We're taught diagnosis in a pathological model. You need to learn how to do diagnosis in a functional model. And so once you learn how to get to hone your diagnostic techniques in a functional model, that will help your adjusting specificity, help your soft tissue therapy, and will help your rehab strategies as well. And it brings it all together. Because what we find in new students coming out, they're being taught, well, a Kemp's test and this and that. Nothing was abnormal. Nothing was positive. The reality is orthopedic tests are junk. And I've published papers on orthopedic tests, so I can say that. And I can say that with impunity. And they generally run in about 20% specificity. And so if that's all you're running your treatment protocols off of, you're going to be behind. So you need to focus on things with a higher sensitivity that's going to be able to get you to where you need to be. So you need to see what's underneath the surface before the pain even showed up. And that's what we try to teach our patients. So there's different courses out there that allow you to be really sensitive in how you are able to identify dysfunction. And that's what I would aim for. And there's a huge there's a huge spectrum that you can obtain that on. But maybe Dan wants to give a few plugs.
I don't know. I don't know if we'll plug anybody in particular, but like Erik said, well, no, it's just that you open yourself up for a flame war if somebody doesn't like it, right? So the thing of it is you gotta find one what works good for you. If you don't genuinely believe that what you're doing is going to help a patient, even though everybody says this is the latest and greatest, it's not going to help anybody because you're not behind it. You have to have a certain level of passion around it. So, like, you know, when you're talking about what courses should you take, one, you should take things that are interesting to you. But if you want to work in a multifunctional, multi-integrational clinical environment, you need to be able to talk the same language as everyone else. You need to standardize that, and you need to surround yourself with individuals who are thinking in the same way as you. So, you know, the courses that you take might be different than the courses that Erik and I take and our associates take in our clinical environment, which is a, you know, multi-interventional functional integrative clinic. But, you know, there's different kind of flavors of that. But realistically, you want to make sure that you're on the same page as everyone else. And like Erik said, you need to get out of the pathological model. Like, okay, you have, you know, knee pain. It turns out that it looks like it's patellofemoral pain syndrome. That's great. You have patellofemoral pain syndrome. So what do you do now? You run them through the cookie cutter rehab program that you've been taught because you have it on a sheet that you've printed off and you have a whole stack of them at your desk. And these are the exercises you're going to do. That doesn't work. That's why every runner in the entire world has patellofemoral pain syndrome. So if you come up with a functional reason of, hey, why did they develop this? That's really, you should be taking courses that answer why. In short, you want to know why something happened. To name it is easy. It takes me, when I see a patient, they walk in, they say, like, you know, by the time you finish your history, you should have 3 differential diagnoses, and, you know, then you work up each one and stuff like that. It takes you maybe 3 questions to figure out roughly what you think is wrong with this person. It takes maybe 1 or 2 traditional orthopedic tests to confirm your differential diagnoses or your primary diagnosis. And now you're left with, okay, I got this cool part on this person that hurts and I have it named. Now what do I do? Which I think is a problem that a lot of young docs run into. And that's where you want to start finding courses that teach you why. Why did this break down in this particular manner? If you look at it from a biomechanical model, and you want to draw the loose relationship that the human body is a car breaks down in a predictable manner. A human body, given the stresses that we put it through in daily life, in work and exercise, depending on what that person's sport or choice of exercise is, it's going to break down in a predictable manner. That person will gain movement dysfunctions, and you'll be able to kind of figure out what it is and reverse engineer it and that type of thing. At least that's where I went. I also want to, I'll plug myself. I think Erik can concur with this. I believe the I believe the average build for most Canadian chiropractors to have like what we would consider to be like a full caseload is probably what, 4 or 5 years, Eric?
5 years is a number frequently thrown out.
5 years is the number. Yeah, yeah. So my practice was full in 2 years with this style of approach.
Yep.
I was banked. I was still taking new patients, but I was working overtime to see them. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for adding that in. I've done 45 of these interviews, and this is something that I keep hearing over and over and over again, that this multifunctional, that this biomechanical, functional movement-based approach that doesn't rely, entirely on the orthopedic exams is really the way to go, because then you're objectively testing function. You can see the joint dysfunction. You can see when the joint dysfunction is getting better. You can use the history to actually, figure out what's the most likely cause of this joint dysfunction. And like you said, answer the question of why. So let's say, I do the necessary training, get myself skilled up so I have the necessary skills, then what was the next steps that you guys took in order to have these, 6 different clinics, multidisciplinary, multi-integrative? I mean, I think this is, every student I talk to, this is their dream, something along these lines. So what advice would you have for students who kind of want to follow in your footsteps and create something similar to what you guys have created?
Well, I'll start off with a really generic piece of advice, and you've got to be super stubborn. We've started off. It's not easy. We've seen new docs coming out and thinking it's easy. If they pass their exams, everything's going to be good. The hardest work is when they get out of school. That's not something you haven't heard of before. It's a huge grind. You got to be ready to rock and roll and hustle, and you have to be ready to be disrespected by society. And it's up to you. Our provincial bodies are not going to do it for us. There's no political solution to this. You have to be, as we've been saying, results driven to such a level that suddenly people are going to see you versus seeing the neurosurgeon. And that's what we've been able to do. It's full on results. And if you can tolerate, like, oh, you're a chiropractor? Well, why would you become a chiropractor? And we've all heard that. You ignore it, you keep your head down, you keep pumping forward. And once you are able to accumulate enough of those results, then suddenly you become the BMOC, and that's where it gets fun. And at that point, when you have the reputation and society accepts you as an equal to everybody else who is in your industry, in your field, or even their superior, you have your own gravitational pull, and everyone wants to get in on the party. And that's when you can become picky and only hire the best people, which is, I'm pleased to say that's where we're at. We're only hiring the best people, and the best people are getting paid the best salaries. And our first year associates make more than they're beyond the spectrum of what business gurus say is plausible for first year associates. So we're really proud of that. I'm really proud of Dan's build. He built a lot faster than I did. I started off in a fairly traditional way, but I was just stubborn. Dan was a rock star, and we're building more and more rock stars behind him. So that's kind of the business model. Be stubborn and keep pushing and keep getting those results. But I'll throw in, there's a lot of traditional chiros out here who will watch this interview and be like, oh, those guys are a bunch of sellouts and biomedical, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is we're really freaking good at really specific stuff. We have a large maintenance base as well. We believe in supporting your body. You know what I mean? Like, people start seeing a difference within 3 visits, and they should feel fantastic by visit number 8. Now, people say, well, it's not wellness care, and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is 40% of my practice is wellness care, functional wellness care. And people realize that, they'll go 2 or 3 months, and instead of what Dan says, getting pulled in the back of a pickup truck, that if they come in every 4, 6, 12 weeks, they can suddenly be the person that they want to be. And that, frankly, is the most satisfying part of my personal practice. That's phenomenal. There's no hard sell. There's no hard crush. We don't have long-term treatment plans. We don't need it.
We don't have a script. I've been seeing all this stuff on Facebook lately about like use this script to close new patients.
Yeah.
Like to get patient buy-in. I'm like, Jesus, if you deliver some results, the patient will buy in on their own. Like they're already paying you. They already bought the service.
Exactly.
Like give them what they want and they'll continue to buy from you. Like
be amazing. Be freaking amazing. Yep.
Become like you said, now you don't feel like you're an expert. You will be, because you're here at, I'm pretty sure it's like 6:30 a.m. your time, grinding out an interview with the two of us cats. I see you've done 45 of these, you said. Like you're using a really good modeling method, I hope. You're recording these, like, you know, you're not going to have any trouble developing into what you want to do because you already are putting in the work. And that's realistically like what Erik was saying, be prepared to grind. Be prepared to grind. I did I had a pretty accelerated build. I worked 70, 80 hours a week. Like I ground it out. But I did more work in 2 years. I did the equivalent amount of work in 2 years what most people do in 5. Yep. Right? So like, you know, that's what it comes down to. There's no shortcut to getting your skill set up. There's no shortcut to building your practice. The shortcut is work and work hard. Try to work as efficiently as possible. I wish I would have been a little more efficient in the beginning. I probably could have gone ahead even faster. But that's you know, that's part of the learning curve too.
Yeah, I wonder, Dr. Danny, if you could go into that just a little bit. You know, like I get it, and you got to work hard. Definitely, you know, like you said, I'm willing to do the work. I'm up at 6 in the morning doing this interview with you guys, and then got to blaze and go to school. But in order to accelerate, besides like the hours that you put in, you mentioned you wish you would have been more efficient. So in terms of the kind of things that you were doing day to day to grow your skill set and to grow your business, do you have any advice for students how they could be more efficient with the 70 to 80 hour weeks that they're putting in to hopefully grow as fast as you did? I mean, 2 years full patient load, that's really impressive. If we could learn from you and be able to replicate that, that would be amazing.
Basically I was very disorganized. And organization is something that I've learned in the short life of my practice. Now I am highly organized. I wish I completely sacrificed my health during my first 2 years. I gained, when I moved home from Toronto, so back to the East Coast, I gained probably 70 or 80 pounds. In the last 3 years, I've lost that 80 pounds that I gained in the first 2 years. I also had a kid in there, so I was eating, I was eating like I was a pregnant woman, for a little while. But take care of your health, make that a priority, because, and there's all kinds of research out on this now. If you exercise, you become more efficient. Your working memory becomes better. You're able to handle more tasks. Write shit down. Make a list if that's what you need. Figure out what your particular learning style is and build your day around that. Basically, when I had downtime, I read. I read Yoakum and Rowe radiology textbook cover to cover. I read Travell Simmons' Trigger Point Manual Compendium, which is like 3,000 pages or something, 5 times. I did a lot of muscle work. It's good to know referral patterns, so I knew them. I read Gray Cook's Movement 3 times. I read every book ever published about Yonda and Vocha, and I read them all. So, read, accelerate, try to. I read everything there was to be on efficiency, and then when I didn't have enough patients, I read the top 20 Amazon books on how to build a referral network. And from each of those books, I took points, and then I built a referral network. And now I have more new patient referrals in a week than most people get in a month. And because we're fairly efficient in how we go about our treatment plans, I'm able to take on new patients because we don't have to see somebody 35 times to get them where they need to be.
Yeah. And people like that.
Yeah, people like that. People like not having to come to the doctor 35 times a month. But realistically, you see these huge treatment plans being introduced to people out there, And like, I'm a busy dude, man. If I went to a guy because I had a sore back or a sore shoulder or a sore neck, and he's like, I need to see you 5 times a week for the next month. I'm like, man, it takes me 20 minutes to drive here, 20 minutes to drive home. I'm here for, well, at that point, it'd probably be about 2.5 minutes. But like, you know, I don't have enough time in my day to come 5 times this week. Like, I have a hard enough time trying to schedule a doctor's appointment next week.
The reality is, if you've seen someone 100 times and you're excited about that, it means you're not very good at your job. You know, especially in a short period of time. Over a span of a lifetime, you know, that's a different story. But in the span of 3 months, if you need to see someone 60 or 70 times, you are frankly not good at your job.
Yeah, and that referral network too. I mean, they say that most patients will, if you get them better or reduce their symptoms in the first 2 visits, they're more likely to refer to you. But if you're putting somebody on 100 treatment plan, like, are they really going to refer to you? I mean, is that really what they want to tell their friends to go do as well?
Well, if you give them a free bug, they might.
Yeah, free bug always helps. Your 100th visit, here's $5. But the other thing is yeah, man, no, you're exactly right. Like, nobody's going to want to refer to you if that's your case. But those are the guys who use scripts. Those are the guys who treat their report of findings like a deal close. So, you know, that's where that stuff comes from. They're not patient-centered. That's a huge take-home from what Erik and I do and what our clinics do, is we're patient-focused. That's results-driven is another word for patient-centric clinic. And you know, that's what patients want. Patients want results. That's a patient-centered paradigm, and that's what grows big-ass practices.
Yeah, brilliant. So, you know, I have to go in about 5 minutes to get to school on time, but I wondered if there's anything you guys want to add that you really think that students, you know, need to know. I feel like we've done a good job of, you know, talking about your model and how it's different, and then kind of the practice management model where you have these different scripts, you know, and being results driven. We've, you know, gotten really granular and talked about how to ramp up and really like accelerate your practice. We've talked about the hard work that it takes, you know, in order to be successful. We've talked about being a neuromuscular skeletal expert. Is there anything else that you think students really need to know about as they're, you know, starting their journey into this profession?
I think the biggest thing they need to know is they have to understand, they need to know what they don't know, and to appreciate that. We really try to get folks who trust us and come on board, you know, the top performers from their class, but they still know, they know what they don't know. And we try to get them to a 5-year clinical competency within about 6 months. And both Dan and I and others work very hard to get them there. And that comes from a functional diagnostic model, ramping up adjusting skills, soft tissue skills, and frankly, how to treat people well, how to be that patient-centered doctor, and bring all that together. And it really is a recipe for success. And school is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. So if you understand that, and you go out and you grind and you learn and you absorb and you respect the information that's out there, you have the recipe to be extremely successful.
Yeah, I concur with Erik 100%. You had mentioned earlier, you know, what can you do other than taking 5 courses a year for the next 20 years? That's a really good place to start. Take 5 or 10 courses a year for the next 20 years. On average, Erik and I do 50 to 60 hours of continuing education a year. I think our provincial body is, I think we're legislated to take
12.
What, 10 a year? 12 a year? Yeah.
12 this year, yeah.
So we generally do like 500% continuing education requirements. Because if you're not learning, you're going behind. I believe it's Dr. Sean Thistle, and I might be misquoting him here at one point, but it came up at one time. The reason why he created Research Review Service was because it would take the average human being 25 hours a day of reading to keep up with the literature and maintain your current status with the literature. So, you know, like if you're not actively trying to learn something new every day, or focus on your skills or hone your skills, you're moving backwards.
If you're doing the same thing today that you did 5 years ago, exactly the same, especially with every single patient walks through your door, then you have gone way backwards.
Yeah, you're in the past.
Yep. Live in the future, and always plan for that.
Push boundaries. That's probably another big one. Let's just throw out a bunch of random cliches here at the end.
Yeah.
Push boundaries. Grind hard. Always
put the puck in the net. Give 110%.
Yeah. Swing for the fences. Bat. Yeah. That's what chiropractors need to be doing. They need to be swinging for the fences and putting the puck in the net, keeping their sticks on the ice. Oh shit. We went into hockey, man, and now we're gonna be the two Canadian hockey guys.
Don't worry, I'll edit that out.
Thanks. Yeah.
It's fine.
Keep it in. Yeah, but that's basically it. Like, I don't know. I don't think we're saying anything that's really mind blowing, but I think our secret is that we've taken all the stuff that we've said and we've implemented it, right? Like, you know, if you can. I read 20 books on how to build a referral network because I wasn't getting enough referrals when I started. I didn't have enough patients to get enough referrals when I first started. That's what everybody runs into. You get one patient and you want them to refer to you. So the biggest take home from reading 20 books on referrals is ask for referrals. That's probably the biggest take home. But the other thing is to actually implement the approach of asking for referrals. So, you know, like if you don't implement what you're learning and what you're reading and what you're practicing, you may as well not have done it at all. Like, you can take 50 hours of continuing ed, but if you don't implement one thing in your practice, then, well, you wasted 50 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. You know, it's almost like, I feel like what I'm really getting from you two is that it's almost like meta learning, which is understanding how you learn as an individual. And so, yeah, you know, you can read 20 books on referral networks, but if you don't actually learn anything from that, or learn enough to actually execute on what you read, then those 20 books aren't going to be very useful for you because you didn't capture the information that's essential from those books and be able to utilize that information and use it in such a way to get the result that you want to get. And I feel like you do that with the trainings that you take. You've done that with the clinics. You do that clinically as well. And so you've kind of developed this way of learning things, figuring out what's essential, and then being able to utilize that and put that into play and execute on that. And that's such a, you know, a brilliant skill set, and it's very individualized. It's very unique. Every individual kind of has their own unique way that they associate in order to memorize and remember and utilize information. So thank you for that.
Noah, I'm just going to give you one parting piece of advice for people who are viewing your podcast, which is phenomenal, by the way. I echo Dan's sentiments, is don't be afraid to fail. You need to try new things. You need to push boundaries. You need to, if you haven't failed at different things, then you're just going to remain with the status quo. The key is to avoid catastrophic failure, but fail at small initiatives, and that's where you hit the home runs. You eventually
Brilliant. Thank you, Dr. Erik Klein. Thank you, Dr. Danny Comeau. This has been a production of DC2B Revolution, helping chiropractic students think big in order to live large. If you like this video, let me know by subscribing to the channel, leaving some comments in the comments section below. Sorry for the silly glasses. It's early here and I'm trying not to mess with my cortisol rhythms. And yeah, thanks for watching, and thank you guys once again for being here.
Peace out. Thank you very much,
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks a lot, Noah. Have a great day.